Hey everyone, this is Hospitality Bites, and I'm your host, Colleen Silk. And today we are joined by half of the Grill Dads team and cookbook author of the best grilling cookbook ever written by two idiots, Ryan Fey. Ryan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that no one can get through that title of our cookbook without laughing.
It's
That's kind of the
perfect.
point, right?
Right.
Perfect title.
Did you guys come up with that, or was that given to you as an
You,
option?
it's funny. We our publisher, we were sitting there talking about, we had kind of gotten the green light to do a book on everything you can do indoors, we can do out. And so when he said, what's your superpower? And I think Mark said something like, well, let me tell you a story about something that happened where someone mentioned if those two idiots can do it, then you can do it. So we're like a perfect vehicle for people to explore and mess around with the grill, because it's, we bring it down to that level. And he goes, that's it. The best grilling cookbook ever written by two idiots. And it kind of took off after that. And so, yeah, people can't believe we actually did that. But you know what? We had a really gutsy publisher that said, if we're going to go, let's go. Like, go all in with this title.
Well, it's funny
So,
because when you first look at the cover of the book, you don't realize what's like the next line underneath it, like two idiots ever written. So it's perfect. Very well
yeah.
done.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
Well, just to kind of give a little background, could you share kind of before we get into the grill dads, what your profession was kind of like before you jumped into the or grilling world, not barbecue, excuse me.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yes, I mean, I'm a traditionally trained creative. I went to school for journalism. I was going to be a writer. I kind of started my career in New York City. I did a bunch of internships, including with Spin Magazine and some Benetton stuff. And then I ended up getting a job as an executive trainee at a PR agency, where I actually worked in the fashion group right out of the gate, which, I like to think I'm fairly fashionable with my black t-shirts now, but at the time, you might be surprised at being a country bumpkin from Ohio who never really experienced that world. It was thrust into Bryant Park and fashion and all sorts of crazy stuff that I honestly still can't believe that I did. And then shortly thereafter, I actually worked in advertising on the PR side. So I was
Hmm.
kind of the head of PR for a big ad agency. So I've been a marketing guy my entire career. I spent like 5 years there. They moved to me from New York to Los Angeles, and then I kind of realized I wasn't a great fit for the corporate world, and I started my
Understood.
own agency. Yep, I started my agency called Omelet, which is interesting that obviously a food term, still in the kind of
So
food business.
I thought that
Weird.
too. Yes, very
Yeah.
ironic.
Yeah. And it was an independent shop. We had a blast doing stuff. We were kind of the left to center agency and considered ourselves a little bit of the misfit toys. At the time, very proud of what we did for many, many, many years. And then I think, as time goes on, you cease to kind of do what you built the agency to do. I built it because I wanted to be a creative. I wanted to, really, really help brands understand the world in which they live and
Hmm.
develop campaigns that move the needle and, cause change. And, I think I'm probably not the best business owner because I lead a lot with my heart, not with my head as much. Which I think, you kind of have to be a bit more, I think, of a shrewd business person to kind of run that type of a job, which we found those people. I didn't necessarily mesh well with a lot of the people that needed to do that kind of a job. So I decided to end up not pursuing that anymore. And at the same time that I was kind of coming to the end of my independent ad agency career, my best friend Mark, who I've known, I'm the better looking half of the Girl Dads. He's the other guy. So the other guy I've known for 26 years. He went to school at Ohio State University. I went to OU, and we met somewhere at a bar at some point somewhere. He was managing bands. I was in a band. And he kind of stayed in the music business for a while. So Mark was a tour manager for Maroon 5 and Courtney Love and the Donnas and a bunch of others. So he has this like
Very
crazy
cool.
experience traveling all over the world. Like this guy would call me and be like, I'm in the parking garage in Singapore. I'm not sure where I should be. And you're like, oh, are you safe? I don't know. And we had this like thing where no matter where we were in the world, we'd actually talk about food a lot. And then we started cooking because the reality is we didn't have money to eat out.
Hmm.
So, and you don't want to eat fast food all the time. So Mark and I, out of necessity, really started cooking together. And he'd come into New York and stay with me. And as a thank you, he'd make, Sunday Italian supper, which is incredible. He'd make meatballs and braciole and all sorts of stuff. And we learned about cuts of meat, and then we started traveling a little bit together for work. And then we would just kind of like pinpoint our highlight restaurant we wanted to try and check out and pull our money and type of thing. And just started doing that. And then one day Mark said, I think we should do something with this. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, let's film this little trailer for just for fun. And it was called The Search for California Barbecue. And so we called in some favors from my agency, had some grip trucks show up and some craft service, and we filmed like 17 restaurants in a day and a half, put together a trailer to prove that California can go toe to toe with Kansas City, Texas.
I watched it.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the trailer, right? So
I saw it. Yeah.
We were very confident in that, and we didn't want to actually make a show. We wanted to kind of prove our point. We wanted to kind of sell it to the Visitors Bureau of California, and then refund all the money. So we actually got it funded in about 24 hours on Indiegogo. And we didn't want to take our friends and family's money. We were just trying to prove a point. This is a viable business model, a viable idea at least. And so we were about to say, go to California. Look at this. Everyone paid. They all want to see it made. So what do you guys think? And then it ended up getting in the hands of Mark Summers, who we found anonymously online. And he ended up calling Mark, my Mark, and said, I just got your video. Who are you guys? It's one of the funniest things I've seen in years. And he said, you guys chefs? We're like, no. You guys cooks? No. You caterers? He said, what the hell do you do? We're like, well, we're just ad guys. He's like, you're what? We're like, well, we work in advertising. And so he said, well, I sent it to Guy Fieri, and he'd love to meet with you guys we'd like to potentially produce a show. And we're like, okay. And so we flew to Santa Rosa, California, met with Guy. Guy said, I'd like to launch you guys through my show called Guy's Big Project. And we said, thank you, but no. We have faces for radio, which is why I'm happy to be on a podcast right now. And we said we don't want to be on reality television because we don't really have a desire to like compete and do all this stuff. We're building a brand. So we want to build a brand. And so we left. And he called us about a month later and said, you idiots are making a huge mistake. There's no funny in food. You can't fake what you guys have because you actually are a buddy comedy team. You've known each other for so long.
You're real friends.
So I don't have to. Real friends, yeah.
Right.
And we do what real friends do, which is, knock each other down all the time. And so we said, okay, well, what's the worst can happen? We're not going to win. But we went on the show and won it. And then as a result,
you did win.
That's the irony of it. Is Mark and I were both like, well, this is dumb. We're just going to go for a couple of weeks and have a vacation together and eat some food and be stupid. And we told each other when we went into this, so we're not changing for anybody. You take it or leave it. We're two rednecks from, Midwest / upstate New York, where Mark's from. And, we're just going to be fun-loving guys, dads that are just going to have a good time together. And we're not out to wreck anybody else. We're just going to do what we want to do. And I think that really caught on the authenticity of that. And, my favorite thing is when producers are like, you guys are so honest. You're so real. And I'm like, this is supposed to be, you're just want to, right. It's the point of this, right? It's like, I'm not supposed to be an actor, I'm not an actor, so I don't want to be an actor. And, so they were like, we haven't seen reality people act this well before. And I'm like, I don't know what that means, but okay. So after we won it, we had our show premiered on prime time. And we crushed our numbers and projections. And then as all good network partners do, they change your name and bury you in the summer for your second season.
I'm sorry.
Why would they ever continue something that's successful?
Yeah.
So yes, you can hear the irony and the sarcasm in my voice right now. So that was something that was very disheartening at the time. This is before there was an acquisition of the Food Network by Discovery, etc. And so honestly, I think we got a pretty bad deal. And Mark and I made a decision that we're going to go develop our brand elsewhere, which is what we've been doing for the last few years, and I might add very successfully, and we're having a really good time doing it. And we're bringing along people that we really trust and love, and looking for the right outlets to do our piece of creative. But it turned from a low paying job to a really cool, beyond hobby now. This is what we do for a living. Career. We changed our careers at age 42. It was ridiculous. So
I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think when people find what their passion is and it becomes fun to do your job, we talked about this, it's not fun
Yep.
anymore, then we don't do it, right? It's no longer,
Yeah.
it's you're working to pay the bills. It's not work to have fun and enjoy your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And we always said, Mark and I always said we have to either make a show or make our content that we're so creatively excited about, that's the reward, or we
Mhm.
have to make enough money to change our families' lives. And we couldn't do either of those things at the Food Network. So we said, well, we love to hang around and do some more stuff with you guys, but we had to go and develop our own thing. So, we're very fortunate. We still have really good friends over there. We do a lot of judging with guys'
Mhm.
grocery games and a lot of Guy Fieri stuff because he's the guy that kind of like gave us the shot to get on this show. And, we're all good friends and he's a bit of a mentor to us and we've learned a lot from him. But, he's very responsible for the way the network runs and et cetera. So I think, we're always very thankful and very humbled by that. But, I think Mark and I we want to build out IP,
Mhm.
intellectual property, so that we have an enterprise value that we can bring to the table versus just one-offs and, living
Right.
in a van. So,
If you don't know what that reference is, Google it. You'll know what it means. We say it
yes.
all the time at this house.
Yep.
I just love that your passion was specifically towards the grilling and really
Yep.
making it obtainable for people. I think most families can afford to have a grill, and people
Mm-hmm.
assume it's like hot dogs, hamburgers, right? But you've made
Right.
it so much different. Like you can bring, like you said, would you say the indoors, outdoors, make any sort of
Well,
kind of culinary cuisine.
yeah. I mean, this is what's cool. It's exactly like an oven, except
Mm-hmm.
for you have smoke and fire.
Which
So,
everyone
like,
loves.
if you really want to break it down, it's still a convection-based system. It's still rotating air.
Right.
Any way you cut it. By the way, whether you're opening a damper at the top or the bottom of the green egg, whether you have a propane grill that heats all at the bottom, whether you have even other types of grills, whether it's an open pit or a flame, you still have to understand just the properties of heat. That's all that you're
Mm-hmm.
really doing. The difference is you can't put a lot of the stuff we're doing on the grates in an oven because it drips down and causes a fire, but
In the
you can
house.
sure in the house, right? You can do it outside and you add smoke to that. And then you get to change the actual chemical composition of the cuisine and of the food. You may or may not like smoke. Great. You don't have to have smoke either. You can do what's called indirect cooking, and therefore you get none of that. You just get the heat and the residual, factors of some of the charcoal burn or whatever else you're doing. So people really confuse grilling with barbecue. And I say this righteously, and I love barbecue, but we're not barbecue dads. So barbecue is a cuisine. It's just
Exactly.
like any other cuisine. It's a cuisine. Grilling is a tool. And I use grills to make all types of
All
cuisine,
types of food.
of which barbecue's in there. But so is Indian food, and
Mm-hmm.
so is, desserts and salads and you name it, breakfast on the grill. I mean, it's a really fun thing to do. The other thing is I feel like we were meant to be outside more than in as animals, as a species. And so to be able to make food outside feels very, it's like a nouveau primal way of getting connected to the world of which we live and the soil from which we came. I don't know, I'm not a religious person, but I sure feel spiritual when I'm
Outside.
looking at trees and grass.
Mm-hmm.
And, even if you're in the city, you still have air and smoke and fire, and there's nothing that's inhibiting you from doing that outside. And you can experiment, way more than you can on a flat top stove or an oven. So
I can't think of a single time I've dined outdoors or been to an outdoor event that I haven't been like super happy. Like
it doesn't happen.
it's no, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a you can't. I was talking about this with my husband. People dine outdoors because one, they like to be outside. Like people are fighting to have outdoor restaurants now. It's like such a big
Mm-hmm.
popular thing. Post pandemic, they're trying to retain their licenses to do that, and it's very much to what you said. You just feel different when you're outside. You enjoy it.
Absolutely. What I really love is when really high end restaurants bring the outdoors in, and they have these giant fire ridden things, and everyone's like a moth to a flame.
Yep,
It's literally what we do when we're outside. you just
but indoors.
everyone gathers around it. It's another thing. The kitchen is outside. The focal point is actually not the kitchen table. It's actually the grill.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about how a community is formed, it was always around fire because that was protection, that was light, and that was sustenance through food. So those three things alone put us back to being the most human part that we can be, which is community. And so you're helping each other out. And it's always over a fire.
You
So
can
I
tell
think
you're a
there's something really
storyteller.
beautiful. Oh, thank you. I
No,
love
just the
this.
way
I
you,
love this shit
yeah,
though.
the way you
You
talk
know?
about it, you can tell it's like totally your passion. This is what makes you happy. Um,
Yeah.
into like the next point about your name outside of the grill is that you guys incorporate dad, and it seems to be very
Hmm.
important to the two of you. Why was that? Was
Yeah.
that something that you fought for to have it in there?
Yeah. So it was a 100% premeditated idea to have the word dad. And we have to lead by example. You can never sell when you're shouting and when you're just preaching. I think the reason I think people fall off with looking at a lot of other people that preach and shout and think that they're getting some great value out of that is, and then they find out that person that was preaching and shouting was actually not the person that should have been preaching and shouting because they do stuff differently off
Mm-hmm.
the stage. Mark and I have always been proponents of the modern dad, and we have a real problem with the way dads are portrayed in the media, and it makes us very sad because
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge group of dads in the world that bust their asses. They work really hard, and they're inclusive. They love their kids. They want to be with their families. They don't want to just go mow the grass or go golf 18 with their buddies and only have cigars and like yeah, I love to golf too. I like to have cigars. I enjoy scotch. Like, sure. I
Mm-hmm.
also really, really enjoy hanging out with my daughter and I enjoy getting to know what she's up to, in science class. And, I like to be on the PTA and, I may have tattoos and you know, I may drive fast cars and, but it's all those things. Like it's such a really fun mold of what a modern dad is. And when you watch the media portray dads as guys that there's a couple things. I'll give you a couple quick examples. This is stuff that gets my goat. The commercial will come up or a commercial will come up and the wife says, "Hey, honey," very scared to ask him to go to the grocery store. The amount of memes out in the world about dads going to the grocery store, they have
Yeah.
to have a list, has to be checked. She has to check in every 10 minutes to make sure he's okay. Like all of this. And he comes
Right.
back triumphantly with the bags. He puts it down and she picks this out and he goes, "Honey, what is this?" He goes, "That's an avocado." And she goes, "This is called a turnip." And so that's just not real. That's
Mm-hmm.
not a real thing. And the more and more that we speak up about that, the more and more it's not about a chest beating man world. It's the opposite. It's we actually, I think, are able to step up in a way, especially with the pandemic, that is more inclusive of an equalizing of what the roles are.
Yes, the
We like
roles.
to cook. We like to clean. We enjoy making food. We are a service beast. Males are service animals. Period. Like I feel like me personally as a dad, my job on this planet is to serve my ladies. And that's kind
Yeah.
of what I do as a male. Okay. I'm also a Midwest male. There might be some of that in there too, for sure. But it doesn't mean I'm doing it in a patriarchal way. It means I'm doing it in an inclusive way. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to know what's going on. So I think Mark and I, very much we're up on world issues. We're up on local issues. We're up, we are all about diversity and inclusivity. And that
Mm-hmm.
goes for not just the people, it goes for the cuisine. We got a lot of beef for making ethnic food.
Mm.
And we always say, we are doing our best to celebrate this. We're not trying to recreate it. I'm a white dude with a beard from the middle of Ohio. I'm not trying to be authentic. What I'm trying to do is show someone who likes these flavor combinations that they too can do it in their
Right.
backyard. That's it. Nothing else. And we celebrate that. We've had a lot of conversations, including with our friend Eva Longoria. She's been very, very vocal with us too about you guys make beautiful food and you make it your way. And you're not trying to match the authentic Oaxacan dish over
Mm-hmm.
here and do that. But we're allowed to try and celebrate it. I think that's something that we've had a really fun time doing. And we're always inclusive of everybody. But that's kind of the modern dad part of this equation is to lead by example. And I want my daughter to be like the most proud and
Yes.
independent girl as well. That's can see her dad working hard and she's being a good person. That's all. Just be a good person. So
Yeah, we've had this conversation not too long ago, talking about like the home life and how many people now they just want to be able to come home to their kids, and no matter
yeah,
like what profession it is, whether it's mom or dad or whomever, they want to be able to get home to their kids and do things with them and not rely on the other parent, whoever that may be. And I just love that you guys consciously made a decision to include dad into that. My husband didn't grow up with a father, and his role models were guys on TV, but he's
Yeah.
very, but he's not like the 90s dad. He has
Right.
tattoos and a beard
Right.
and
Right.
he used to wear skinny jeans. Like
That's
that's the kind of guy he used to be. So
awesome.
having like a role model that looks like him, that is exploring different cuisines, again, using the grill as an example of how to do that. Because I think it's less intimidating also than sauteing on the stove. Like the grill is like, okay, I can do this. I can put some charcoal on. I can hope for the
There's
best here.
there's also almost a premeditated idea that you should try stuff on a grill outside. It's like it's a rite of passage a little bit, I think too. Maybe it's more of an old school rite of passage, but I got to tell you, I know a lot of women who are crushing the men in grilling because they're just in general smarter and understand the physics of
Of the
the
grill.
science behind it and what. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, I know that for a fact, man. Like the retention of information, just how to do things, it's amazing. We've got some really good friends of ours that are just, we'll call them and be like, so that sauce you made the other day on the grill, how again did you do that? But I think the idea too is that it should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
There's it's like driving a stick. If you know how
I
to
can't
drive
do
a
that.
stick, well, it's okay. Let me give you the analogy though. But it's fun to learn. But if you drive a stick, it's your whole body's working in the car, right? You're moving your hands, you're doing your thing, you're looking, you have your feet. A grill is similar to that because you're messing with temperature, you're doing this, you're lifting the thing, you've got gas to worry about, or you have charcoal to light, and there's a process to do that. You're not just flipping a switch all the time. There's something to that I think is very methodical, and it feels like a game, and it kind of becomes a game. You're almost playing grill.
Mm-hmm.
when you go out and do it. Not to use the sports analogy, but I like to play grill a lot. And when I go out and play grill, I like to win and I like to challenge myself. And and I have some big failures, man, at the grill, which is great because then I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
That sucked. Yeah.
I love that you don't have, you say, culinary background, but the way that you speak would definitely lend you that you do. Did you kind of pick that up just as like self-taught? How did that come to be?
Guy Fieri was like, listen, punks, you two are the most inarticulate.
Oh my
Like,
God.
I mean, he was like, you guys need to get your shit together because you can't talk about food at all. Now, if you listen to Guy Fieri talk about food, you are immediately brought into the conversation. You start to salivate a little bit. You can taste the lemon when he's talking about acid. And you're like, wait a second. Okay, so what you're telling me then is I eat with my eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your smell follows right after that. The taste actually is probably the tertiary thing that that really comes into play. 'Cause your brain's got to be set up and ready to administer this stimuli that you're getting from all these things. What's really cool about that is Mark and I have really worked hard to be articulate in this world, to try and use some adjectives that are meaningful versus, wow, that's cool. Or, it's delicious. Like
Right.
that's a declarative statement that is so generic that anyone can say it. And I like to push the boundaries of how to take fine cuisine terminology and apply it to something outside, because that's what's really interesting. If
Okay.
Mark and I can talk about unctuousness, and we can describe something that is in a bit of an area that's maybe more leaning toward Asian cuisine, and it talks about umami and what that means and why there's this beautiful balance between the parts of your tongue that are completely divided into that 5 spectrum amazing area that we all enjoy so much when we're eating food. If you can talk about that with grilling, that's when the rednecks perk up and they're like, what'd you say? And I'm like, well, let me show you what I said, because I'm allowed to have a conversation with them because I look like them. Well, I am one. But that's been really fun. And we push each other. I mean, Mark would be like, what you just said means nothing. It was a terrible thing. Can you do it again? Now say it with some meaning and some heart and give me something that's real. And so we'll continue. Mark and I continue to refine our language. I think he's probably, don't tell him I said this, he is probably better at that than I am. I tend to follow up with like, yeah, like I'll say that after which, you got to have two sides of the coin, right?
Yes,
So,
100%.
but it's a blast to learn some of the terminology without being snooty and to deliver it in a way where you're not so veiled as this elitist thing. In fact, if you deliver it and the context is right, man, you just bridge the gap between everybody. That's
I,
great.
we have dined at restaurants where the chef has come out and just, thrown shit at you with like whatever
Yeah.
they're saying.
Yeah.
And I instantly have lost interest. I don't really know what's going on.
Right.
Now my food's sitting here for a very long time. And I know it's a part of the experience, but yeah, like you said, they put words together that I don't think mean anything to some people. For instance, we dined this place and they gave us, it was like mushroom on a bamboo that he grew in his backyard. And he was telling me where he lived,
Yeah.
all this sort of stuff. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so it's like wild DC bamboo that I'm eating off of.
Right. That sounds delicious. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So to make it feel that someone that's never worked in culinary can understand,
Yeah.
but taste and imagine what it's about, what they're about to experience is key, because it makes the whole experience more inviting. You're paying for it, Also, you might be less intimidated to try something if it sounds.
Well, that's the big one, is you're less intimidated. There's a scene in the menu that everyone talks about, right? It's a great movie. You haven't seen it. It's kind of crazy. Ray Fiennes is a genius.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing movie. But there's a scene there, he delivers all these insane words, and yes, he's picked from the finest XYZ and the uni foam on that, and this thing, and the sauce, and blah, blah, blah. And he comes out, and I'm not going to spoil it, but he says, "What would you like?" And she says, "I want a burger." And you're just like, yeah, man, like all of that, and you boil it down to the perfect burger, which is the most, and it's perfect burger in its simplest form, right? It's like everyone says, look, you can go to all the culinary school you want. If you don't crush an omelet, that's the thing.
I have a thing about eggs, and I judge every egg. I judge every hollandaise sauce wherever we go. And I have no culinary experience of just working in restaurants my whole life. But something about eggs, if you can't perfect an egg, then I don't want to dine properly.
Bingo. Yes. I'm in the same boat. I think that's the one thing. Now, it is difficult to get it right. And no one's saying it's easy. But if you can hit the 7 temps of an egg, if you can hit 4 of the 7 temps of an egg in a contemporary restaurant, you're off to the races. If you can't hit all 7, that's okay. But if you hit all 7, you should be paying a lot of money for that. So I think I couldn't agree with you more. But here's the thing. Well, I'll give you another quick analogy, and I love this. So Snake River Farms is a great meat purveyor. Okay, they're out of Idaho. American Wagyu. Wagyu beef is on the marbling scale. It's like a 9, maybe an 8 or a 9. A5 Japanese Wagyu is a 12. It's all about the marbling scale, how much fat content basically is intermuscular fats in there. And you look at prime, it's a 5, right? So choice below that, etc. So for years, they used to work with the chef de cuisine of the French Laundry. And he's the guy that was like responsible for using Snake River Farms, and did some promotions with him, etc. and all this. And they're like, well, it's not getting the traction we wanted it to. And then they look at us, and they said, what are you guys saying? We're like, I don't know, is it good? And they said, well, and they started using us to promote the brand. This is early on. And literally they said, well, because you guys are able now to translate usage, like if those two guys can use this product, this premium, expensive, high-end product, then I can too. And it just to bring it full circle back to the idea that I think there's this idea of a personal chef. That's what people are, personal chefs. What style of personal chef are you, et cetera, like your own personal chef for you and your family. Maybe it's just you. But like, you have every right to think that you can make delicious, nutritious, great, nutrient-dense food if you want, if that's your jam. You can also make the perfect burger. I think you just have to go out and try. Mark and I tell everybody, how do I get better at grilling? And Mark's like, dude, just go grill.
Keep doing it. Right.
Keep doing it. Don't stop. And just like anything, like, do you play the piano the perfect way the first time, or pick up the guitar? It's the same. It's a tool. It's just a tool. If you're on a lathe, it's just you're just using a different ingredient, versus me using a lathe and putting a piece of wood in. Or am I making a joint? It's the same. It's exactly the same idea. It
just made me think of my husband. He got an uni pizza oven a couple years ago. And I was dying laughing. We were living in Charleston, so it's like Christmas time, but you're out in shorts. And he's making me a pizza, and he burns like blowing hell out of it. And he's so angry. He's so upset. And I'm trying not to laugh because he was so excited to have an uni. Like, everyone's been talking about it. So the first one was complete burnt flop of just cheese and dough that was unsalvageable. But then he just kept trying, and he became like obsessed with like the pellets. So you can get the different types of pellets and
Sure.
all of it. But that's what you said about, just keep trying it, because I thought he wanted to throw a thing off the porch. He was so mad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and honestly, some people realize that after they're done with the lathe the first 100 times, they're like, I don't want to I don't want to work on a lathe anymore. And then, it's fine. It's like, cool. I don't want to grill. I don't want to cook outside. That's great. I don't see that being something that I know a single person that wouldn't try it. And by the way, with all these new beautiful grills that are coming out, I think the Gateway grills are so inclusive of male, female, up, down, left, right. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. Like, it's really an amazing world and time to go outside and make food and make it for your family. I mean, we were forced to stay home for like 2 years.
Just gonna say that, right?
So where could you cook? You cook two places. Most of us, a lot of us, you cook outside, you cook in your thing. So I think a lot of people picked up some skills that I don't think they realize. And, you got to keep the gas on. So just keep doing it and connect a little bit, I think, a little bit more. The other thing is, like, that's how you're going to get to know your neighbors, make some food.
I would say socialization is what's also great about grilling. You just kind of,
Yeah.
you can grill it in the park or grill at home or whatever it is. But to your point about the pandemic, I think even the hospitality world took a major shift in like, what's the point of what we're doing? If we're
Yeah.
not doing it because we love it anymore, then let's stop running our restaurants or stop, just change your profession. I think people either hit the gas with the opportunity to learn new things, or people pump the brakes and now they're just not operating anymore. I'm one of those people that took it as an opportunity to learn some new skills.
Right.
I started the show. I saw a need to have conversations that are open and honest and meet people from like all different types of culinary spectrums. For you, you're on one spectrum. There's people that work in the UK that are running 5-star hotels. So it's just been really nice to get to know everyone.
It's awesome.
And it sounds very similar to what you guys are doing, like exploring other career avenues within your brand of the Grill Dads, right?
Yeah, we are actually. And I love that thank you for bringing that up. And first of all, I agree with what you were saying. I think it's a really nice way to put it from just what we all collectively went through. And there is a bit of a reckoning that needed to happen where you open the curtains and you go back outside.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're scared, but we open it up, and now it's like, go outside, have fun, do stuff. But Mark and I also realize that as the Grill Dads, it's fairly myopic. I think it gets narrow.
Mm-hmm.
It's grilling and dadding, and it's not a thing for everybody. So I think we're starting to open the aperture, and we've developed something that we are launching our first show in 13 days on YouTube, and there's a chance it's going to be on another large platform, which I will let you know about if we get it on there. It's called Dad's Guide to the Universe, and it is we're starting with Dad's Guide to Grilling. This is literally the dummy's guide for modern dads. So anything you would want to ask a modern dad about, any advice of any topic, you name it, that's what we're going to cover. And we're not subject matter experts on everything. We're just the bridge. We're the hosts of this idea of bringing together what we consider experts in the field, regardless if they're dads or not, because this is dads as in a group of people.
Right.
Dad's guide, not possessive. Dad's Guide to the Universe. And starting off with grilling, then we're going to go to RV camping. We're filming that starting next week. We're going to move into DIY outdoor kitchens. And then we're going to start to move into things like soccer. Like, I got to tell you, I sure wish I had a dummy's guide for modern dads and how to behave at a soccer game. I don't know. I think Dad's Guide to renting cars at airports. Like, there's weird stuff that there's a bit of a lost art.
Mm-hmm.
I used to ask my dad. My dad, I swear to God, my dad knows everything. I was like, I've never found something my father doesn't know. I'm like, Dad, how do you do this? And he's like, well, I got a guy that taught me this back in blah, blah, blah. And you're just like, oh my gosh, it's everything. Literally,
right.
you know everything. But I think that's gone. A lot of it's been lost. But it has nothing to do with the actual context of the thing. It's the idea of being asked for advice and you're knowledgeable in a subject. Or if you're not, you go find someone who is. And that's what we're going to bring to the table. And we want to make it a lighthouse for modern families, because it's really cool. Because if modern dads are humming and doing well, man, that family unit is crushing it. I think mom's doing well. And if mom's crushing it, dads are behind her. And I think there's always going to be this idea or this quest for this kind of perfect situation. Well, that doesn't exist, but we want to have it be at least fun in the quest to kind of get
Mm-hmm.
to some cool experience and cool knowledge-based places, and to do it with your crew, whether it's your friends or your family and your kids. But we're not going to be preachy about it. Again, it's lead by example. We're going to go out and do it ourselves. If Dirty Jobs was that show, Dirty Jobs
Yes.
like, if that was for everything,
Mm-hmm.
that we're talking about, that's, we're going to go do it. We're going to go try it. And if you're going to see big failures as well, which we're perfectly happy to share with the world. It's
Failing's
actually easy
okay.
for us. Failing is good.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's something we're really, really excited about, is Dad's Guide to the Universe. And so we'll, check out our YouTube on the 13th of September.
That's awesome.
And then, we'll have our first 12 episodes up. So,
You know what it reminds me of is several of in the industry, people, friends of mine, always say that people don't know how to do simple tasks anymore. I would say simple in the sense of paying
change
a check.
tire.
Yeah, change a tire. Just behaving normally in a restaurant situation, or traveling abroad, or how do you do that?
People have lost their minds. People have
Right.
lost their minds. Like, yeah.
And it's so crazy that people should know how to do these things, but they don't. And you shake your head. And then you're like, well, maybe then no one taught them.
Right.
And it's just,
Right.
I never had experienced home ec. That was not a thing when I was in high school.
Yeah.
However, the idea of teaching people basic, I don't agree with the whole concept of home ec meant for women only,
Sure.
but the concept of teaching people how to do basic at-home tasks is lost on some people because they may not have that home life where someone's able to teach them how to take the trash out on Tuesdays when the trash comes. Changing diapers, sharing that responsibility. My husband was horrible at it. He wore a mask the first time our daughter exploded.
Amazing.
And I took a video. He didn't think it was funny, but
wow.
But it was so funny. And
pretty great.
But it's like things like that. I'm like, how do you not know how to do that? Please.
But I think you made a really, really good point just now. We make assumptions as those that know that they should know.
Right.
But you're right. Like, for example, I've been over, I'm just going to take my poor mom, Cheryl. Let's talk about Cheryl for a second.
Cheryl.
My mom, she has a knife block, right?
Okay.
There's a tool in the knife block typically. It's a sharpener.
Yes.
So looks like a little sword. You pull it out. I got to tell you, I asked my mom to sharpen this knife. I watched her do it, and I was dying. I was laughing so hard because I was afraid for her cutting her friggin' fingers off because the way she's just trying to. But you know what? I realized no one taught my mom how to sharpen a knife.
Right.
Something as simple as that, and it comes with the block. So I taught her how to sharpen a knife. If you don't like that style, here's a stone. This is what you do with the stone. If you don't like that, here's the thing you drag through. If you don't like that, here's this really cool pulley system. We can put it on the end of your desk here, and you can swing it back and forth. I mean, there's so many things that we don't know, which is why I think Mike Judge is happy because I think Idiocracy 2 is going to come out. And he's like, great. I mean, all I have to do is make a doc, about what's going on right now. So, yeah.
I just think your show, it sounds perfect. Because I think a lot of us feel that like certain things, it also is intimidating to ask for help.
Totally get that.
Right.
Yeah. But like, if you look at us, we're not like, we should be the least intimidating guys on the planet. Be like, come over here. We give everyone hugs and we're like, here's a beer. Now let's talk about this. Let's just sit down and, just work through it together and do the thing. And, we also love that. I mean, we get hired a lot for corporate jobs, which means we go and do demos for people that are sitting behind a machine all day under fluorescent lights. And, they a lot of them wear monogram polos, and you're just like, you don't have a lot of time. And you go to the company picnic once a year. Let me show you how to do X, Y, and Z. And it's really fun because, man, then they're animals. Then they won't leave you alone. And they're blowing you up on Instagram all day. Like, Faye, I did this thing, because, we're so tight now. Faye, I did this thing, oh my God. And like, look what happened. It's genius, beautiful. Wow. What'd your wife think? Oh, thanks for remembering my wife. Yeah, man, no problem. You just told me yesterday. There you go.
It's so nice though.
Oh, we love, that's one of our favorite parts of the job. We take all this shit with all the good too. I mean, I get more, we get so much business on, as everyone does. I'm sure everyone gets a lot, of hate mail, but then I have a lot of empathy for that. And then what's funny is if you call them out a little bit, like, why are you so angry? You need a hug? No, man, I was just trolling. I'm sorry. I love your channel. And we're like, why? Why? Why you got to blow me up, man? Are you okay? Are you upset?
Well, someone recently, I don't get trolls, so I don't have thousands of followers, and I'm actually okay with that. I'm doing this because I like having these
Well, you
conversations.
just got one, buddy.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
So wait till after this.
Thank you. But someone asked, I spoke about something really personal on one of my shows, and I just felt the need to do it. I said, because people need to relate to other people. The whole point is if you can relate to somebody else, it might change their life.
Yeah. Or if you just listen. Here's the other thing. I think people genuinely just want a reaction or want someone to listen or notice because they must in their lives don't have that stimuli.
Mm-hmm.
They throw a lot of rocks in the pond, but the ripples never quite make it back. And I think that's it. I think the empathy for listening is probably one of Mark and I's big quests. Is we don't turn anybody down. We're not mean to anybody. We listen first, and then we may have an opinion or formulate an idea, but we're not going to come with a preconceived notion until we hear. And when I not hear, when we actually listen, those are two very different terms, right? Hearing is just an audible function that humans have, and listening is obviously using a part of your left brain that makes it make sense cognitively to be able to do that.
Active listening.
Yeah, active listening. Don't just like pander. And I teach Zoe that too, my daughter. It's the same thing. I'm like, listen first, babe. Listen first, because you never know what the perspective is from somebody else. I mean, I think that in the world that we're in, both of us, hospitality is actually built on listening first. It really is. Without
1,000%.
having these and I get it. You go through the grind, and you have almost a set of answers that you're ready with.
Mm-hmm.
But if you truly listen, you're probably going to have a different answer. So
yeah, I just said the other day on a webinar that I used to be embarrassed that I was a waitress, and people come into the restaurant that I went to high school with, and over the years I've become less ashamed of what I did because it got me to where I am now. And I don't know what they were going through, as well. Like when we were in their 20s, they probably were facing their own hardships, and everyone grows at different paces. But the skills I got in hospitality, I never would have learned in any other profession. I learned to read people, understand that people have bad days, because I had bad days, but was never really allowed to express that because I was there for the customer. And then I just learned that I love people. Like, I love being around people. I enjoy the experience that I'm giving or that I'm receiving, and getting to meet people such as yourself, that I am just honored that you wanted to come on my show. I really appreciate it. But to hear different perspectives and different career avenues and things that hospitality wasn't 20 years ago. This was not an opportunity to talk about these things or go in different career avenues, television shows, all sorts of different stuff. And people now look up to it. And it's just very interesting to me. The person I was 20 years ago to the person I am today is very night and day. And you going from marketing at a firm called Omelet, which is hilarious, to actually working in food, and you're happy. And like you look to be enjoying what you're doing.
Man, yes. First of all, thank you for what you said. And, just to comment a little bit, service doesn't mean silent service. Service means that it is an act of, it's a verb. So like an act of doing something for other people. I think there's something so incredibly important about the idea of service. And that's one of the reasons a lot of countries say, you're going to put your ass in the military, no matter what age you are, no matter where you are in life. You're going to go in there and serve. There's something to that for the force thing, but there's some idea that you should, I think everyone should work retail or a restaurant, period. At some point in their life. I equate retail. I did more retail side of things. I was like the most naive kid at JCPenney when I was growing up. I got really proud of being able to how to hem a suit. I was 15 years old, learned what a stitch hem was. And it's like that kind of cool thing. I worked my ass off for that job. Then I moved up a little bit to Lazarus. Then I became a sportscaster in a rib joint where I was calling the trivia games. So I was around food. And then I became a bartender. Then I was like a shrink. And I was like, wow, people really want to tell you what's going on, man. And I don't have to say a word. All I have to do is listen. If I hand you a drink of truth serum and you sit back for a second and you feel comfortable and you're allowed to get a little vulnerable, boy, does it just pour out of your mouth. I think that's what we're built to do. As people that like people, we're built to recognize their thoughts and not pass judgment so damn fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's okay. Now, there's always right and wrong, in my opinion, and there is. However, there's all sorts of shades of that stuff, man.
Right.
Who am I to be this ultimate, this isn't the Great Inquisition here. I'm not trying to yes, this, and you said that, you'll burn, and that whole thing. But I think everyone should work those jobs at some point in their life, just because it truly does teach you about people.
Right.
And it just makes you not so special in your brain. Because in your brain, you're the best thing since sliced bread when you walk in anywhere, right? Great confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, wow, man, you got a lot to learn. So what was the question you asked me? I got on my soapbox for a second.
I didn't ask you any question. I was just saying that I
Sweet.
love that you went from marketing to this. And
oh, yeah.
Not that I can equate similar stories, but just going from where I was 20 years ago to where I am now, and just finding my path and finding successes in things I didn't think you could find success in. And you guys are doing the same thing, you and Mark.
Well, I mean, you look at what you're doing. You left, you had a really tough situation in this hospitality industry, and you left, said, fuck it, I'm going to start a podcast now. And by the way, kudos to you, because if anyone's listening, when everyone listens to this, just realize if you think you can start a podcast, good luck. It is one of the hardest things. I put it this way, Mark and I, we actually had a really good podcast, and it did really well on Apple, and it was so hard it broke us. We said never again. That's it. We're done. End of story. I'm not doing a podcast. So just for the record, Colleen Silk is the person who's probably going to make it make sense for everybody, because your delivery is awesome. It's easy to get shit out of me from you. So great. I'm sure you can completely do that with all your guests. But
thank you.
What a refreshing way of having a conversation that's bent on the idea of service with people.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole bend is, I come from that. Let's talk about that. It's actually really nice to be able to do that. And I think, a lot of people are going to hear this. I think more and more we're going to promote it. We're big fans. So I think, yeah, it's great. And the world needs this. So I think there's a lot of podcasts the world doesn't need. I can tell you that right now.
I really appreciate that.
This one I think is one that needs to be heard, because I think people need to listen.
Oh, that's so kind. And I thoroughly have had a blast doing it. It's just been my thing. And
yeah,
I don't know. I feel good after every conversation and people that I've met. And I don't know, just the more and more I have these conversations, I'm I got to meet the next person and see what they're doing. And, I look up people and I just kind of research and see what's going on in the world. And if it aligns with what my thoughts and values are and making a positive impact, and that's what you and Mark are doing, then those people I like to work with. So with that, awesome. I was going to say, where can people find you and Mark? I know your show's coming on YouTube, but where else can they go to find you guys?
Well, first of all, I just want to say one thing, just real quick, back to what you just said, is it's also very calming when you have this 1962 wallpaper of lemons tied with bows and shit. It's the most I feel like Corningware needs to come. Feel like there's.
I'm in my parents' basement, if that makes sense.
There's something so comforting and weirdly scissor hands about what I'm seeing right now. It's I feel like I want to mow the grass in a really cool pattern and come back in and have a glass of iced tea or lemonade sitting at that table. That's what I think I want to do.
That's so funny.
You can find the Grill Dads anywhere that you type in the word or the phrase, the Grill Dads. TheGrillDads.com, at The Grill Dads on Instagram. Same thing with Facebook. Same thing with TikTok. YouTube channel is, you can type in The Grill Dads as well and subscribe to that, but it's going to be converted to Dad's Guide to the Universe as well. But no matter what, you can Google just The Grill Dads, and I think we're pretty much all over there, and you can see all the mediums that we play in and things that we work, and cookbooks, anywhere you buy cookbooks, whether it's in store at Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart, Amazon, etc. Our spice line can be found at spiceology.com on our website, as well as Ace Hardware stores and a bunch of other mom and pop shops around the country as well.
So is that how I get the cayenne chocolate? Because on your website, it's been sold out.
No, you get the cayenne chocolate by asking me to send it to you. That's how you're going to get the cayenne chocolate.
I was on the website. I was like, dang it.
Yeah, no, that one sells out pretty often. It's really frustrating because our supply chain, I don't know what happens. It's like the tortoise and the hare. The hare runs a little bit and then chills out and takes a nap, and then runs some more and then eats some carrots and then runs some more. Yeah. So we'll figure that out. I
All
got
right.
you. Don't you
Oh,
worry.
perfect. Well, thank you for joining me. For everyone listening, this Hospitality Bites. And until next time, be kind to yourself. Thanks, Faye.
Please. Thanks.